everyone, so this video got a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but I've got a lot of good information in there and I chaptered it all down below. So listen to the intro and then look for what you want, or hey, you know what, better idea, just watch the whole thing. Hey everyone, so I just got these new lightweight wheels, super efficient tires, had them on the car for maybe, I don't know, at least 500 miles now, and I'm gonna tell you about them because they work. Okay, this stuff actually works. Drop some weight in the wheels and tires, make the tires more efficient, and you get more miles. Who knew? So I bought these wheels and tires for two reasons. One of which, I wanted a really light setup for performance in terms of drag racing. Obviously, with these tires, you're not going to be able to track them very well. They're not going to handle as well. The second reason that I got these is, well, I need a winter setup, okay? And I'm not going to put 20-inch winter tires on those OEM wheels. They're just too expensive, and I don't know, they're not worth it. And actually, I do like those OEM 20-inch wheels, but I don't know if I like them that much. If you're interested, I'm probably going to be selling them. I don't even think I have 1,000 miles on those factory wheels and tires. So yeah, if you're interested, let me know. So what I'm going to do is tell you basically everything that I know about these wheels and tires, the efficiency that I've observed, some tests that others have done. There's a difference, okay? There's a noticeable difference. So we're going to compare specs. I'm going to compare them with a number of the factory OEM wheel and tires and some aftermarket Konigs that I put on my 2018. Of course, we're going to talk about price and everything else. And I'll tell you, for the money, I don't know if you can beat these wheels for sure. And I'm going to tell you, as much as I love this setup, I'm probably not going to keep the tires, and I'll tell you why. And of course, the Model 3 Performance comes with 20-inch all the way around, 275s in the rear and 245s, I believe, for the front. I'll tell you the comparison, the weight and everything else, sound, ride, all that kind of stuff. We'll get into that. And as light as those 20-inch are, well, of course, these are only 18-inch, but those 20-inch wheels, they're really light. The tires were made for EVs, but anyway, these blow them away. Shopping for Tesla stuff and need a discount code? Try Tesla Mart. It will save you the most amount of money, and it works in tons of places. Please help out by liking and subscribing. Thank you. All right, let's take a little bit of a closer look at these wheels and tires in terms of just look. All right, so since these are only 8.5, I don't have any wheel spacers or anything like that on there, and you can see the offset is, well, you know, for looks, it's not good. You know, they're set far in. However, for efficiency, that's what you want. You don't want the wheels and tires even, you know, flush with the car, really. It creates too much disturbance in terms of wind. So when you have it like this, the wind will roll around here much better. And you can see here in the back, you know, they look like they're set in even further. So yeah, generally this is not what I like because it just doesn't look cool. Okay, if you want it to look better, you know, a couple things. First off, 18-inch don't look as good as 19-inch, which generally doesn't look as good as 20-inch, right? 20-inch, however, I'm afraid of running 20-inch in Chicagoland area, many areas of the country. We have things called potholes, okay? You run a 20-inch tire, you're probably, one day, you're gonna hit a pothole and you're gonna destroy a rim. You're going to destroy the tire. 19-inch to me is the perfect combination of looking good and not destroying a wheel and tire on a pothole. So I would probably recommend, if you wanted to go with something like this and be as light and efficient and look as good as possible, I would probably get the 19-inch. But again, these are 18-inch. I was just going for super efficiency. These are going to be my winter setup, and I didn't care as much as how the car looks in the winter time. But if you want these to look better, you know, you could get some wheel spacers on here. You know, you're probably going to need at least maybe a 20 in the front, maybe 25 in the back. I don't know. You're going to need some serious spacer here. Unfortunately, that's going to add to the weight, but it will look better, and it's still going to be lighter than probably many of the other wheels and tires that you can buy. You buy anything that's like an 18x8, 18.5, or even if you go 7.5, which I don't think they have with this wheel, But, you know, if you want like super efficiency, you know, you're still going to need to buy some kind of a wheel spacer if you want that flush look. Okay, so what we got here are the Konig Hypergrams, and these suckers are light. These are only 18 by 8.5 all the way around. Tires, Hankook Ion Evo AS, so all season. They've got a sound absorber in there, 235 45 18s, so same as the Model 3 standard edition wheels and tires. All right, so let's get into some of the data. So T-Sportline has tons of information here on the OEM Tesla wheels, starting off here with the 18-inch Model 3 Aero wheels. These were the super plain original wheels. Anyway, we are going to go through a bunch of these, and I'm going to show you mainly the weight of these wheels, and then we're going to do a comparison with some other aftermarket wheels, and then finally with my Konig Hypergrams, which again, I'm highly recommending here. So quickly, let's scroll through these here. This is pretty much the lightest wheel that they made. Without aero covers, 21.6 pounds, 23 with aero covers. Okay, as soon as we get into the sport wheels, we're up to 25 pounds. So that's already significantly heavier. Okay, here, 20-inch wheel, 28.75 pounds. This is almost 29 pounds. This is heavy, especially when it's touted as a sport wheel. You know, that's what really kind of gets me. All right, 20-inch Ubertine wheels. I think these were the heaviest ones, 32 pounds each. This is ridiculous. If you've got Ubertines, man, get rid of them. All right, now, T-Sportline. They're going to be bragging about how light their wheels and tires are, but let's take a look at these. 18-inch TSR, 22.5 pounds. Yeah, lighter, but the factory 18-inch OEM wheels from Tesla were lighter than these. TS5s here, slightly less weight at 22 pounds. TSS wheel, about 23 pounds. TST wheel, getting over 23.6 pounds. Here, 19-inch, 23.3 pounds. All right, their TSV wheel, you know, we're already getting to the 30, almost 32 pounds. TSV wheels, oh my God, 32, 35 pounds. 26 pounds, 30 pounds. Another 20-inch wheel, 27.7, 30.45. Another one, 28, 31 pounds, 32 pounds. You know, this goes on and on. Here, these are decent, 25 pounds each. Here, these are probably their lightest 20-inch wheels, 19.75 pounds, 21.45 pounds. Wow, okay, so this is pretty good. Now, what do these cost? And, you know, I should have been mentioning the price on all of these, but look at this, $4,000, $1,000 each. Yeah, these are pretty light, but for $1,000 each, they better be light. So I'm going to put some prices on the screen too. I'm not going to go back and call them all out, but you know, here we've got like $400 a wheel. Everything's pretty much $400 a wheel, maybe slightly less. This gives us a good idea of the different weights and prices that we can expect from at least one manufacturer. And from what I've seen, they're all pretty much the same. Let's see what else we can take a look at. Discount tire, Konig Hypergrams. Okay, 18 by 8.5. This is pretty much all that you can get for an 18-inch anyway, with the lug pattern that we need. Here, right off the bat, look at the price. $282 each. All right, $282 each. Okay, 18, 8.5. And all right, this shows 21.84 pounds, but guess what? It's not. And I know it's less than this. This is for... Yeah, so this is saying it's for the 20-inch. This isn't what I selected, but anyway, the 21.84, that's for a 20-inch wheel. Okay, so how do I know for sure that the 18-inch aren't 21.84 pounds? Well, look at this. I actually weighed them, all right? I took the wheels before they mounted the tires on them, walked them over to a health club, put them on the scale. Check it out, 18 pounds on the nose. So that is measured real world weight, 18 by 8.5, 18 pounds. Guys, this is a super lightweight wheel for only $282. If you got anything that can beat this, let me know. Let's take a look at another Konig wheel that I'm a big fan of. So my 2018 Model 3, I upgraded the wheels and tires.
I didn't want 20 inch again, so I stuck with the 19 by 8.5. Check out these Konig oversteers. They're my favorite. Look at this, $210. All right, that is really inexpensive. And the weight, okay, so the weight down here says 23 pounds. However, when I did actually buy these and weigh them, they weighed in more at like 24 pounds. So 24 pounds, 19 by 8.5 inch wheel for only $210. This is fantastic. And I am considering running this same setup on my Performance Model 3 here, but I'm not sure yet. I'm probably going to wait till springtime to finally make a decision. But anyway, yeah, these wheels were they're a favorite of mine. Again, weight is good and price is fantastic. So let's take a look at what comes with the 2024 Performance Model 3. These are 20-inch wheels, 20 by 9 in the front, 20 by 10 in the rear, and the fronts without the aero caps on them are 22.7 pounds. The rear, 23.4 pounds, and the aero covers, they're about 1.6 pounds each. So these are pretty lightweight wheels for OEM and for 20 inch, 20 by 9, 20 by 10. That's pretty good.
So I talked about rotational mass and mass equivalence before. So I've got this picture here that I think explains it pretty well. But basically, if you've got mass that is out further from the axis of rotation, it's harder to move. So that rotational mass acts like a much heavier static mass or mass that is not rotating. So then how much heavier does it act like? Well, for tires which are furthest from the axis of rotation, the factor is 2 times. So a 2-pound change in the tire weight will act like 4 pounds of static mass. Then don't forget that this is times 4 because you have 4 tires. For wheels, the equivalence is like 1.6 times. So a 10-pound change in wheel weight acts like 16 pounds of static weight. Again, times 4 for fork wheels. For rotors, the equivalence is only 1.2x, but it still adds up. All of these numbers add up much more quickly, and lowering this weight also helps with your suspension dynamics. So it's really a double win.
Okay, now that we've learned a little bit about mass equivalence, wheels and tire weight, and how it affects, real weight, real static weight. And when I created this, these were just kind of notes of mine. These weren't really meant to be put on a video here, so I probably could have presented this a little bit better. Anyway, I am comparing the 2024 Performance 3, the OEM Warp wheel and tires with the Konig Hypergram 18 by 8.5 and the Hankook Ion Evos. So overall, weight of the wheel, 18 pounds versus 22.7, 23.4. Weight of the tires, 24.9 versus 25.1, 27.3. And then comparing the weight of all 4 of the wheels using the 1.6 rotational mass equivalence, using the tire weight here at 2 times rotational mass equivalence, and seeing the overall difference between the two. It got a little bit more complicated just because we've got 2 different size wheels and tires over here on the Performance 3 side. So anyway, mass equivalence here of just the wheels, we've got a 32-pound difference. And then in terms of the tires, it was a small difference, but 2x, 10 pounds. So total of 42.7 pound total mass equivalent reduced. Now, this is not huge. In quarter mile terms, this is not even a tenth of a second. Quick rule of thumb is every 100 pounds is about a tenth of a second. So here we're talking, 0.043 seconds in the quarter mile, which, hey, this adds up. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it's not that significant. And when we're looking at overall efficiency, a wheel and tire in terms of gaining some range or some mileage, this really doesn't do a lot. Where the biggest effect comes into play is the compound of the tire. And we'll talk about that next. But yeah, overall weight, you reduce some weight, and yeah, you're going to get better range. But here with these wheels and tires, just because they're lighter is not going to really affect your range very much. So this is the difference between the Konig Hypergrams and the 20-inch Performance 3 wheels, which again are pretty light. Let's say though you've got something, like those Uber Teens or whatever those were, where you're hitting close to 30 pounds per wheel. And look at the difference here. Now we're getting up to a mass equivalence of like 87 pounds. That is pretty huge. And actually, depending on the tire you go with too, those are going to be a lot heavier also. Some of the Model Ys I've seen, they've got some wide tires on there, so they get heavy. They might be the same weight as these. Hard to say, but either way, that's a big difference in mass. And also then you've got this massive wheel that I mentioned earlier. The suspension works a lot harder to control that wheel. The car just is not going to feel as nimble. The suspension is going to be working extra hard just to lug around this extra mass. Then going back to probably the very beginning of the video where I said that I bought these wheels and tires, well, two reasons. I need a winter setup, and I was trying to see if also, since these are so much lighter, would I get better quarter-mile performance? I got to say, I really didn't. Okay, I didn't. Again, on the street, these Evos are not great for traction. You're definitely going to be losing out, 0 to 60. They just don't take off. The larger P0s with, better traction that they're going to have. But at the track, these did hook up pretty well. You've got a track that's fairly well prepped, better than the street anyway. And I was still getting pretty much the same times that I was getting before, which were pretty good, but they didn't really improve very much. Okay, so let's talk now efficiency. This is from Tirerack. They do some fantastic testing. I encourage everybody to go to their website, check out all their different ratings and testing and everything else. So during this test, they tested a number of tires, not all of which are on this page. But as you can see, the Hankook Ion Evo AS came out on top. This particular test, they measured the watt hours per mile. Let's look at another view. Okay, so here we have many more of the tires. And again, Eon Evo AS 263, again, lower number is better, watt hours per mile. And it goes all the way down to the Michelin Pilot Sport All Season 4 at 292. So that is a pretty significant difference. That is a 10% increase in efficiency. And because this is direct watt hours per mile, 10%, if we're looking at, let's say, full charge of a Model 3, which let's just call it 300 miles, 10%, 30 miles, 30 more miles per full charge. All right, something else to notice here. Obviously, this is the Pilot Sport, the summer tire. This is the all season. These are not EV specific tires. However, all of these other ones, I believe all of these are EV tires. So they are designed to be efficient. That is why you don't see a big difference between the Ion Evo, the best and the worst, 263 to 276. That is still way better than 290 and 292. So really, when you get into this range here, it's better to look at other factors aside from just the overall efficiency. Does it handle as well? What kind of performance are you getting? Are they quiet? And so on. So pretty much every trip that I took on these tires, I was able to stay underneath the trip projection. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have pretty much never been able to stay even on track with the trip projection. I mean, I really had to be careful how I drove. I couldn't speed too much at all, couldn't accelerate hard, nothing in order to even match the trip projection. However, with these tires, I've got a ton of these trips. This was a little bit longer of a trip. A number of these trips were small. I think I'm underneath on all of them. This is crazy. Honestly, I've never seen anything like this again. My experience with just normal tires, typically the Michelins. So here, if this doesn't show up well, it's not the clearest picture in the world, but 8.5% less. And as you can see, I was not below 70 miles an hour. I was more like 75, 80 miles an hour. Driving, minus 7.2%. Climate, minus 1.5. I probably had the air on, colder than they expect. And also 4.3 mile an hour wind from the south. Cost me 4.1% this trip. So you mean to tell me if there was no wind, I would have been 12% under? Like, I don't know. Here is another one. 29% consumed, 0.6 less than trip projection. And this trip, I was driving pretty fast, okay? I mean, I don't want to say exactly how fast, but I was definitely not below 70 miles an hour. We had a 4.9 mile an hour headwind, or wind from the southeast, whatever that cost, 2.2%. But here, my driving was actually minus 0.6. Climate minus 0.2, the elevation minus 0.2, everything else 0.3. So still less. There is no way with my other tires I would have come close to this. I mean, no way. All right, then a number of these short trips here. 3% consumed, just 0.5% less. Here, 4.2%, 0.3 less. Again, these are all just little short trips, but I've never been able to match this. 2.7%, 0.6% less. 2.2 consumes 0.3% more. I don't know what happened here. This must have been at the drag strip or something. Here, 2% consume, 0.2% less. So we can see this actually works out. This is real world stuff here. Now let's take a look at somebody else's testing. So I'm not the only one noticing this massive efficiency improvement. User here, MPG XSVCD on TeslaMotorsClub.com. He did a 25-mile test loop, and he noticed now comparing Model 3 performance, all the aero bits in place, versus an 18-inch wheel. Don't remember which one. It was a T Sportline wheel, however. 18-inch, 235, 45, 18 Hankook Ion Evo tires, which is what I tested here. Difference, 16.5% difference in his efficiency testing around its 25-mile loop. Again, that is huge. That is very significant. I don't have all of the numbers here, but he did a test here also with original Ubertine wheels and PZ4 tires. 18% more efficient. Then comparing a couple, I know the Pirelli PZ4 tires, I don't recall what the other one was, but 8 to 10% more efficient than either of the 18-inch summer tires, although they were all on the same wheels. So again, this backs up what Tirerack did. It backs up really what I'm seeing on all of my drives. These tires, they're just way more efficient, and really has very little to do with the wheels.
The first thing I noticed from these Hankook tires, after, again, coming from the 20-inch OEM wheels and tires, were that they were comfortable, all right? Made the car much more comfortable. There are many reasons for this. One, going from a 20-inch wheel to an 18-inch, you just got a much higher sidewall, much taller sidewall, well, 1 inch taller. That's kind of a lot. And these aren't sport tires. The 20-inch are sport tires, so the sidewall's not as stiff. So that gives you a little bit more cushion. So you don't feel all the tiny little bumps, cracks, and crevices. It just makes the ride a little more cushy. And it was more quiet, definitely more quiet than, again, 20-inch OEM. So yeah, all of this put together, I mean, this is a major plus, but unfortunately, it's still not good enough. So let's get into that.
Okay, dry track results. Now, I could live with some of this, all right? So, for example, average cornering force here, Pilot Sport 4S's P0, yeah, we know these are going to do really well. However, you get down here to the Ion Evos, and you see there's a noticeable drop-off in performance. Again, winter tires, if I'm just looking for efficiency, winter, okay, not that big of a deal. However, where we're getting into some things here that I just don't think are worth it. Again, dry track, stopping distance. Here, Pilot Sport 4, again, these are going to be the best. A lower number is better. Obviously, this is 78 feet, stopping from 50 miles an hour to 0. P0's 78 all season. Michelin's at 83.7. Get down here, Ion Evo 88. All right, that is a pretty big difference. And you're talking dry track. So in other words, the real world, you're trying to stop to avoid an accident or something, and you're going to be able to stop 5 to 6 feet sooner. That is a massive difference. I mean, inches are the difference between getting into an accident and not. 5 feet, that is a lot. It's really hard for me to say that it's worth it. Efficiency is great, but if the trade-off is I can't stop my car as fast as I used to be able to, Not so sure. Here's the other thing. This got me even more. Wet track. So most of the time you're driving your car, it's either dry or wet. All right, let's face it. Unless you're way up north, I don't know. I'm pretty far up north. I'm in Chicago area. We don't get really that much snow. However, we do get a lot of water, and obviously then it's dry too. So what do we got here? All right, let's take a look at wet track results. And again, you know you're going to give up some cornering G's. All right, but here we've got Ion Evo as the worst, 0.82 G's versus the Pilot Sport 4S's, which we expect all season. Okay, 93, 86. Okay, maybe that sounds okay and, not a big deal. However, again, stopping distance, 50 to 0. What do we have on top? Pilot Sport all seasons, 92.3 feet. What do we have at the bottom? The exact opposite. The Ion Evo has 104 feet. What are we at? 12 to 13 feet worse? I'm sorry. That is a massive difference, and I don't want to take that chance. I don't know how efficient the tire would have to be for me to pick this tire over the Pilot Sport because, yeah, great, it's efficient. But when I'm trying to avoid an accident, I need a tire that can grip the road whether it is wet or dry. So even these G-forces they matter too, right? You're getting a little bit sideways. You want the car to grip. You don't want it to slide. This is just really important to me. And I don't know, I think it should be important for others too. So, again, everybody's looking for the best efficiency, but that's really not what you should be looking at. I think the number one thing is really safety.
Yeah, so I got rid of the hand cooks, came back to my favorite all-season tires. These are the Michelin Pilot All-Season Sport. The first thing I noticed with these tires is just cornering way better. Okay, way more responsive, and it feels like it holds the road better. It's just better cornering. Everything about it in terms of performance feels better. And the Tirerack tests pretty much confirm that. Other thing I noticed is that they are not as quiet, although I wouldn't call them noisy, but I'm hearing just kind of this subtle kind of a hum when you drive that I didn't hear with the hand cooks, but that doesn't mean I think they're noisy. It's just I think those hand cook, those ions are just so quiet. In terms of efficiency, we just got to go with the numbers at this point. I don't have enough drive time on these yet to see my own experience, but I've had these tires before on the car, and it was just like I said before, it is very difficult to meet the predicted efficiency numbers. And again, I gotta say, I still recommend these wheels very highly. The Hankook tires, been through all that. I can't say that I recommend them. I just don't think that they're safe enough, as safe as these tires here. You may feel differently. So that's it, everyone. I hope this video helped you out in any way at all.